Christmas Eve in Riverton. The whole family stood around the tree, and my mother threw a glass of red wine straight at my chest in front of all our relatives. My father's voice cut through the gasps. "You're no hero here," while my sister snorted with barely concealed amusement. They all expected me to bow my head like every other year. I simply wiped the wine stain, glancing at the clock counting down exactly 9:17 p.m. The evidence and the knock on the door would arrive together. My name is Mara Ellison, 32 years old, and I investigate digital fraud for the Midwest Digital Crimes Bureau, though you'd never know it from how my family introduces me at parties. "She does office work," my mother Lorraine always says with that practiced smile, the one she perfected managing the church charity fund. Nothing exciting. The drive back to Riverton for Christmas always feels like rewinding time. The highway narrows, the buildings shrink, and by the time I pull into my parents' driveway, the house that used to belong to my grandparents in Lake Haven, I'm expected to shrink too. Richard Ellison, my father, built half this town with his contracting business, and he likes his women small and quiet. My sister Sloane learned that lesson early. She's been living in the house to take care of it since Grandma died 18 months ago. Rent-free, of course. Don't mention that hacker case. Mother had called to remind me last week. It's not appropriate dinner conversation, especially during the Lord's season. The pre-Christmas party at the town club should have been my first warning. Mother stood at the buffet table, champagne flute in hand, regaling the church committee with stories of my teenage years. Remember when Mara thought she could solve the church treasury shortage by auditing our books? She laughed, that tinkling sound that makes my teeth ache. 14 years old and accusing poor Mrs. Henderson of embezzlement. Can you imagine? The women tittered. Mrs. Henderson had been stealing. Actually, I'd found the receipts, but she was also the mayor's sister-in-law. The money quietly reappeared, and I learned my first lesson about small-town justice. "That's enough, Lorraine," Father cut in. Not to defend me, but because attention was drifting from his latest pitch about renovating the community center. Everything with Richard Ellison comes back to contracts and connections. Sloane leaned against the bar, examining her new diamond bracelet, another gift from our parents. No doubt. She caught my eye and smirked. That little nasal exhale that says still trying to play hero. Little sister, I nursed my club soda and watched them work the room. Father's broad shoulders and firm handshake. Mother's careful distribution of compliments and prayer requests. Sloane playing the devoted daughter who sacrificed her marketing career to help the family. The same performance, year after year. Except this time, I was really watching the way I watch suspects through security footage, noting patterns, documenting behaviors. The Christmas decorations at the club were identical to last year's and the year before that. Tinsel and tradition, covering the rot underneath. The Lake Haven Outreach Fund banner hung prominently behind the donation box. Lorraine Ellison, director, printed in elegant script. Mother had taken over after Grandma's death, she said, to honor her memory. "Your mother does such good work," Judge Patterson's wife whispered to me near the coat check. Though I do wonder why the Hendricks family hasn't received their heating assistance yet. It's been 3 months since they applied. I made a non-committal sound, but I was already making mental notes. 3 months. The same delay as the Turner family's medical fund, and old Mr. Jameson's grocery assistance. Always just long enough for people to find other solutions or give up asking. That night, I couldn't sleep in my childhood bedroom, surrounded by participation trophies and youth group photos. The house felt different without Grandma's presence, colder despite the furnace Father had installed last year, silent despite Sloane's TV droning from the master suite she'd claimed. I pulled out my laptop and did what I do best, followed the money. The Lake Haven Outreach Fund's public filings showed healthy donations, glowing thank you letters, photos of smiling families. But the disbursement records told a different story. Delays, denials, and funds that seemed to evaporate between donation and distribution. Then I found it a single routing number that appeared on both the charity's administrative expense transfers and my father's business account for Ellison Civic Partners. The same number showed up on a credit card statement Sloane had carelessly left on the kitchen counter, the one she used for her weekly spa treatments and designer shopping sprees. The Christmas tree lights blinked in the living room below, counting down to a holiday that would be unlike any other. This year, I wouldn't bow my head. This year, I'd bring my own gifts to the family gathering wrapped in evidence tape and tied with federal statutes. The pattern was clear now, like code breaking across my screen. They'd been doing this for years, probably since before Grandma died. Maybe that's why the will had been so suddenly revised, leaving everything to a family trust that Mother administered. I closed my laptop at 4:17, finally understanding why they always insisted I downplay my job. It wasn't shame or small-town modesty. It was fear. The family dinner 3 nights before Christmas was staged like a play. Mother had arranged the dining room with her usual precision, the good china, the silver candlesticks Grandma had left us, the centerpiece of holly and white roses that cost more than most families' entire Christmas budget. The turkey sat golden and glistening, stuffed with lies as thoroughly as it was with sage dressing. "Let us give thanks," Father intoned, his contractor's hands clasped in practiced piety, "for family, for prosperity, and for the opportunity to serve our community through the Lake Haven Outreach Fund." "Amen," Sloane chimed, already reaching for the wine bottle. Mother carved the conversation as carefully as Father carved the turkey. "The fund helped 12 families this month," she announced, though her eyes never quite met mine. The Riverside Methodist congregation was particularly generous. "Speaking of which," Father smoothly transitioned, "we're hoping to raise another 30,000 by New Year's. The need is so great, especially with the cold snap coming." I pushed green beans around my plate. "What about the Hendricks family, Mrs. Patterson mentioned they've been waiting 3 months for heating assistance." The room's temperature dropped 10 degrees. Mother's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "These things take time," she said carefully. "We have to verify need, ensure proper documentation. We can't just throw money at every sob story." "Besides," Sloane added, twirling her new ring so it caught the candlelight, "some people need to learn to help themselves. Handouts just create dependency." This from a woman who hadn't paid rent in 18 months. Father steered us back to safer waters. "The important thing is that we're making a difference. The fund has distributed over 200,000 this year alone." I knew for a fact that less than 40,000 had reached actual recipients. I'd seen the bank records tucked into Mother's Bible at the church office. She'd left them there like bookmarks between Corinthians and Romans. The North Star Credit Union statements showed the rest flowing into Ellison Civic Partners, Father's newest shell company. "That's impressive," I said, voice neutral as tap water. "You must have excellent bookkeeping. I'd love to learn more about how you manage it all." Mother's laugh was sharp as crystal breaking. "Oh, Mara, always trying to audit something. This is Christmas dinner, not one of your investigations." She can't help herself. Sloane smirked. "Remember when she tried to prove the church youth group leader was skimming from the car wash fundraiser?" "He was," I said quietly. "But you couldn't prove it." Father's voice carried the weight of old victories. "And you nearly destroyed a good man's reputation with your accusations." I'd had the proof. I'd also been 17 and naive enough to think evidence mattered more than connections. The youth leader was Father's golf buddy. The missing money was explained away as accounting errors, and I was sent to volunteer at the food bank for the rest of the summer to learn about real charity work. "More stuffing," Mother offered, her tone suggesting the conversation was over. But I wasn't done. Not this time. "Actually, I've been thinking about Grandma's estate," I said, reaching for the gravy. "It's strange how the will changed so close to her death. She always said she wanted the house to stay in the family directly, not in a trust." Silence thick as the gravy pooled on my plate. "Your grandmother wasn't well at the end," Mother said carefully. "We did what was best for everyone." "Of course," I agreed. "Though it's convenient that the trust can make charitable donations, tax benefits." I assume Father set down his knife with deliberate control. Well, what exactly are you implying? Nothing, I said, meeting his eyes. Just appreciating the financial planning. In my line of work, I see so many families who don't structure things properly. You've obviously been very thorough. Sloane giggled nervously. God, Mara, you make it sound so sinister. Mom and Dad are helping people. That's what the fund is for, helping. Absolutely, I said, raising my water glass in a mock toast. To helping. Mother stood abruptly, startling the candle flames. I'll get dessert. As she passed my chair, she leaned down, her breath warm against my ear, perfumed with wine and warning. Don't ruin Christmas. Mara, some gifts are better left unwrapped. I smiled up at her, the same smile I use in interrogation rooms. Don't worry, Mother. I've already got everything on my list. She straightened, uncertain, then swept into the kitchen. Father watched me across the table, calculating. Sloane poured another glass of wine, the one she'd claimed the fund had purchased for the church, but somehow ended up in our family dinner. The grandfather clock in the hallway, another item that should have been sold for the estate, chimed 8 o'clock. In 73 hours, it would chime again at 9:17 p.m. on Christmas Eve, and everything would change. More turkey. Father offered, but his eyes said something else entirely. I'm full, I replied, though we both knew I was just getting started. The memory hit me that night like cold water. Grandma's funeral. 18 months ago. The lawyer reading a will that nobody expected. I'd flown in from Chicago, still green at the bureau, still believing family meant something sacred. The original will, the one Grandma had shown me just 6 months before her death, left the house to all 3 grandchildren equally. The revised will, dated 2 weeks before her stroke, left everything to the Lake Haven Family Trust. For the good of the community, Mother had said through dignified tears. Mom would have wanted her legacy to help others. Nobody questioned it. Nobody except me. But I was just the daughter who lived far away, who didn't understand small-town values anymore. Now, 18 months later, I understood perfectly. The Midwest Digital Crimes Bureau had taught me to follow patterns, and the pattern here was as clear as code on a screen. Charity donations went in, tax write-offs came out, and in between, the money took interesting detours. Ellison Civic Partners, Father's construction company Shell, had won every community contract in the past year. Sloane's lifestyle blog suddenly had mysterious sponsors paying $5,000 monthly for ad space that didn't exist. I met with Assistant District Attorney David Kulick at a truck stop 40 miles outside Riverton. He looked like every other tired public servant, coffee-stained tie, overstuffed briefcase, eyes that had seen too much small-town corruption to be surprised anymore. You realize what you're asking? He stirred sugar into his coffee, counting the packets like evidence. The Ellisons own half of Riverton. Your father built the courthouse renovation. Your mother runs the church's charitable arm. I have everything. I pushed the flash drive across the table. Bank records, transfer documentation, forged signatures on my grandmother's will. The notary who witnessed it died in a car accident 3 months later. He pocketed the drive. That's not proof of murder. No, but it's proof of fraud. The charity alone is enough for federal charges. Wire fraud, tax evasion, money laundering. And you want to do this on Christmas Eve. He almost smiled. That's cold, even for law enforcement. They're hosting their biggest fundraiser of the year. Every prominent family in Riverton will be there. They'll collect probably $50,000 in donations that night. I met his eyes. Money that will never reach the families who need it. The Hendricks kids won't have heat. Dorothy Parks won't get her heart surgery, but my sister will get another tennis bracelet. Kulick studied me. Family cases are the hardest. You sure about this? I thought about Grandma, how she'd spent her life actually helping people. No fanfare, no tax breaks, just quiet kindness. How she'd died thinking her legacy would continue that work. 9:17 p.m., I said. That's when they'll make the final donation call, right before the Christmas toast. I'll have everything uploaded to your system by then. Your team can move in with the warrants. You'll need more than digital evidence, physical documents, recordings if possible. I'll get them. The next 3 days, I became a ghost in my parents' house. I photographed everything receipts left in Father's study. Mother's charity work planner with its 2 sets of books. Sloane's credit card statements showing purchases coded as charitable administrative expenses. I installed a recording app on my phone. Caught Mother telling Sloane to hold off on the Henderson payment until after the quarter closes. The smoking gun came from Mother's church office. She'd asked me to drop off cookies for the staff playing the good daughter card, but left me alone for 20 minutes. 20 minutes was 19 more than I needed. The real books were in a locked drawer, but Mother used the same combination she'd used since I was 12 Grandma's birthday. Inside, the evidence was damning 2 complete sets of books, one for the IRS, one for reality, email printouts between my parents discussing how to restructure funds, a paper trail of greed wrapped in good intentions. I photographed everything, uploaded it to Kulik's secure server, and replaced it all exactly as I'd found it. Then I sat in Grandma's old prayer chair and let myself feel the weight of what was coming. They'd raised me to believe in justice, in truth, in doing what's right even when it's hard. They just never expected me to apply those lessons to them. That evening, wrapping Christmas presents in my room, I prepared my own special package, a flash drive with everything, wrapped in shiny paper, topped with a bow. Evidence as a Christmas gift. The 3 wise men brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh. I'd bring forensic accounting, audio recordings, and federal warrants. The local news played on my laptop another family thanking the Lake Haven Outreach Fund for help that would never come. I turned it off and texted Kulik. Everything's in place. 9:17 p.m., December 24th. His response was immediate. Team will be ready. Sure, you want to be there when it happens? I looked at the family photo on my old dresser, all of us smiling at last year's Christmas party, playing the roles we'd been assigned. I wouldn't miss it for the world. Dorothy Parks lived in a cottage on Maple Street, the kind of place that looked like a gingerbread house until you noticed the peeling paint and sagging porch. She answered the door in a housecoat, oxygen tank trailing behind her like a reluctant pet. I don't mean to bother you, I said, though we both knew that was exactly what I was doing. I'm looking into some delays with the Lake Haven Outreach Fund. Her laugh was bitter as black coffee. Delays. That's a nice word for it. She invited me in, past walls covered with photographs of grandchildren she rarely saw anymore. The house was cold. She kept the thermostat at 58 degrees to save money. I applied for help with my surgery in August, she said, settling into a chair that had seen better decades. Triple bypass. $40,000, even with Medicare. The fund said they'd help. Your mother personally promised me at church. And forms to fill out. Then more forms. Then they needed additional documentation. Then the documentation wasn't sufficient. Then they needed to verify my income, my assets, my daughter's income in California. She adjusted her oxygen tube. By October, my doctor said we couldn't wait anymore. My daughter took out a loan against her house. I recorded everything on my phone, her words steady despite the wheeze in her chest. The strange thing is, Dorothy continued, at the church Christmas bazaar, your mother was wearing earrings that cost more than my monthly medications. Diamond drops. She said they were a gift from the charity board for her good work. $12,000 earrings, to be exact. I'd seen the receipt in Mother's drawer, paid for by Ellison Civic Partners, written off as a business expense. After Dorothy, I visited 6 more families. The Hendricks, still heating with space heaters while their kids slept in sleeping bags by the fireplace. Tom Morrison, whose cancer treatment fundraiser collected $20,000 that he never saw. The Pham family, whose supposed emergency housing grant got lost in processing while they lived in their car for 3 weeks. Each story was the same promises made, forms filed, delays manufactured until people either found other solutions or gave up hope. The fund looked generous on paper, Mother looked saintly at church, and desperate families learned not to rely on charity. The physical evidence was harder to obtain. But Father had one weakness: he liked to drink bourbon in his study after dinner and review his contracts. On December 22nd, I brought him his favorite brand, poured generous, and listened to him brag. "The beauty of it," he said, 3 drinks in, "is that it's all legal. Mostly legal. Administrative costs, overhead, consulting fees, every charity has them. 60% administrative costs seems high," I said, refilling his glass. 70, he corrected, then caught himself. "I mean, it varies. The point is, we're providing a service. Managing money is work." I'd hidden a recording device behind his golf trophies. Every word was crystal clear. Mother was more careful, but ego was her weakness. While helping her prepare donation packets for the Christmas Eve party, I asked innocent questions about the fund's success. "We've revolutionized charitable giving in Riverton," she said, sealing envelopes with satisfaction. "Before I took over, the fund was chaos. No proper structure, no investment strategy." "Investment strategy? Well, you can't just give money away immediately. It needs to grow first. We invest the donations, take the returns for operating costs, and distribute from the principal." She smiled. "It's what Grandma would have wanted: sustainable charity." "Is that what you told her when you changed the will?" The silence stretched like taffy. Mother's hands stilled on the envelopes. "Your grandmother was confused at the end. We helped her clarify her wishes. With a notary who died 3 months later. Car accidents happen. Mara, don't be morbid. I had everything I needed, but something inside me, maybe Grandma's ghost, maybe my own rage, pushed for more. I remember Grandma's original will," I said quietly. "She showed it to me. She wanted the house to stay in the family directly. Well, it has. The trust is family. The trust is a slush fund." Mother stood so fast the envelopes scattered. "How dare you?" "I dare because I've seen the books. Both sets." Her face went white as the donation envelopes. "You don't understand how things work here. This isn't Chicago. This is Riverton. We take care of our own. You take care of yourselves." She slapped me. Quick, sharp, the family heirloom of discipline. But I didn't flinch. I just smiled and touched my cheek where her wedding ring had left a mark. "Thank you," I said. "That's going to look great in the photographs." I walked out, leaving her standing among the scattered envelopes, each one a promise that would never be kept. In my pocket, the USB drives, 1 red for recordings, 1 green for financial documents burned like coals. Tomorrow was December 23rd, 1 more day until the performance of a lifetime. The winter stars were bright over Riverton, and somewhere Dorothy Parks was struggling to breathe. The Hendricks children were doing homework in sleeping bags, and my family was planning a party to collect more money they'd never distribute. Justice isn't a Christmas gift. It's a debt. And tomorrow night, I'd collect every penny. Christmas Eve arrived wrapped in fresh snow and false cheer. The Ellison house transformed into what Mother called a winter wonderland, white lights dripping from every surface, wreaths on every door, and a 12-foot Fraser fir that Father claimed was donated but actually cost $3,000 of fund money. By 5 p.m., the house hummed with preparation. Caterers arranged silver platters while Mother directed them like a general commanding troops. Father tested the sound system for his annual speech about giving. Sloane floated between rooms in a red cocktail dress that cost more than most families' mortgage payments, playing the perfect hostess in training. I volunteered to handle the technical setup someone needed to run the slideshow of families we've helped. They didn't question why I was so helpful. Pride makes people blind, and my family had enough pride to eclipse the sun. The mini projector was smaller than a jewelry box, easy to hide behind the nativity scene on the mantel. I connected it to my phone via Bluetooth, tested it during the sound check by playing a bland Christmas slideshow. Perfect quality, perfect angle to display on the white wall above the fireplace where Father would stand for his speech. "It's beautiful," Mother said, watching the test images. "Very professional. I learned from the best. I said, and she actually smiled, missing the edge in my voice. By 7 p.m., guests began arriving. The mayor, the police chief, 3 city council members, Judge Patterson and his wife, the entire church board, and 24 other prominent families all carrying checks, all ready to feel good about themselves while drinking free champagne. I wore black, simple and forgettable, melting into the background while recording everything. The conversations were a masterclass in small-town corruption dressed as charity. The fund helped renovate the community center, Father told the mayor, not mentioning his company got the contract at twice the normal rate. Such important work, the mayor replied, not mentioning his campaign had received a generous donation from Ellison Civic Partners. Mother worked the room with her donation box, decorated with angels and ribbon. Every dollar helps a family in need, she promised, though 60 cents of each dollar would help her family's needs instead. At 8:30 p.m., I received a text from Kulik, team in position, warrants signed, waiting for your signal. My hands were steady as I typed back, 9:17 p.m., as planned. Mara. Sloan appeared at my elbow, champagne flute in hand. Why aren't you mingling? This is a family event. I'm documenting, I said, holding up my phone. For posterity, she laughed. God, you're weird. Who documents a Christmas party? Someone should. You never know when you'll want to remember exactly how things were. She drifted away, toward the attorney who'd handled Grandma's will. He was here too, drinking Father's bourbon, part of the ecosystem of enabling. At 9 p.m., Father clinked his glass. The room quieted. This was the moment, the annual Christmas speech, the call for final donations, the crescendo of their performance. Friends, neighbors, family, he began, standing before the fireplace. Christmas reminds us that giving is the greatest gift. Behind him, the slideshow began smiling families, children with presents, elderly people with grocery bags, all stock photos. I noticed, not a single real recipient. This year, the Lake Haven Outreach Fund has distributed over $200,000 to families in need. Murmurs of approval, checkbooks opening. Mother positioned the donation box on the coffee table, front and center. But the need continues. Tonight, I'm asking each of you to dig deep. Help us reach $300,000 by year's end. 9:15 p.m. 2 minutes. Before we collect tonight's donations, Father continued, I want to recognize the woman who makes this all possible. My wife, Lorraine, who manages the fund with grace and dedication. Mother stepped forward, dabbing her eyes with theatrical precision. I'm just honoring my mother's legacy. She believed in helping others. 9:16 p.m. And my eldest daughter, Sloan, who volunteers countless hours. Sloan actually curtsied while wearing jewelry bought with stolen charity funds. 9:17 p.m. I pressed play. The slideshow on the wall changed. No more stock photos. Now it showed bank statements, transfer records, emails between my parents discussing how to hide the money. Mother's voice filled the room from a recording. Just keep it quiet until the quarter ends. We'll move it through the shell company like always. The room froze. Champagne glasses hung midair. Mother's face drained of color. The evidence kept rolling. Screenshots of the 2 sets of books. The forged will. Sloan's credit card statements showing charity funds spent on designer clothes, coded as administrative expenses. Father's contracts, inflated by 200%, paid by the fund to his own company. What is this? Someone whispered. The truth, I said, stepping forward. Every donation you've made, every dollar meant for families in need, has been funding my family's lifestyle. Father lunged for the projector, but I held up my phone. It's streaming from here, and it's already been sent to the district attorney's office. The doorbell rang, right on time. The wine hit my velvet dress like blood on snow. Mother had excellent aim. The full glass of Merlot splashed across my chest, soaking through to my skin. The room gasped collectively, a chorus of shock that would have been satisfying if I wasn't dripping burgundy. "You're no hero here." Father's voice boomed across the stunned silence. His face was purple with rage, veins standing out on his neck like rope. "You ungrateful little bitch, after everything we've done for you." Sloane snorted that distinctive nasal sound of derision she'd perfected in high school. "Oh my God, Mara, you actually think you're some kind of crusader? You're just jealous. You've always been jealous." The room full of Riverton's elite stood frozen, glasses still raised for the toast that would never come. Judge Patterson's mouth hung open. The police chief who'd been reaching for his checkbook slowly put it away. I pulled a napkin from the nearest table and dabbed at the wine stain, methodical and calm. The liquid was warm against my skin, but my hands stayed steady. I'd expected this. Maybe not the wine specifically, but the explosion, the attempt to make me the villain in their story. "Turn it off," Mother hissed, her charity event smile completely gone. "Turn it off right now." "Can't," I said simply. "It's not just streaming to my phone." The projector kept rolling. A recorded conversation between Father and his accountant. "Just make sure the numbers work. I don't care how you categorize it, but that $50,000 needs to disappear from the fund's books by December 31st. Mrs. Patterson, the judge's wife, who'd first mentioned the Hendricks family to me, stepped forward. "Richard, is this real?" "It's fabricated," Father said immediately. "Mara works in digital crimes. She knows how to fake these things. She's always been troubled, resentful. We tried to help her, but the originals are with the district attorney." I interrupted. "Every document, every recording, every transfer. 18 months of evidence." "You recorded us." Mother's voice cracked. "Your own family. You stole from families who needed help. You let Dorothy Parks mortgage her daughter's future for a surgery the fund should have covered. You let the Hendricks children sleep in sleeping bags by a fireplace while you bought Sloane a tennis bracelet with their heating assistance money." "Lies!" Sloane spat, but her voice wavered. "Mom, tell them she's lying." Mother opened her mouth, but no words came. Behind her, the projector now showed her own handwriting journal entries about moving money, about keeping the board in the dark, about making sure the will change looked legitimate. "My mother," Mayor Williams said slowly, staring at the screen, "donated $10,000 last year, in memory of my father." His voice grew harder. "You told me it went to veterans' families." "It did," Father started. "It went to Ellison Civic Partners," I said. "Check slide 43. The slide appeared. The mayor's donation, transferred 3 days later to Father's company for consulting services. The doorbell rang again. Longer this time. Insistent. "Don't answer that," Father commanded, but the caterer, a young woman who looked terrified, was already moving toward the door. "Mrs. Ellison." Dr. Hartley from the hospital board stepped forward, his voice dangerously quiet. "My wife and I donated our daughter's inheritance to this fund. $50,000. She died of leukemia and wanted the money to help other sick children." Mother's hands shook as she reached for something to steady herself. The donation box tumbled from the coffee table, checks scattering across the floor like accusations. "We can explain," she whispered. "Explain." Mrs. Chen from the church board laughed bitterly. "Explain how you took money meant for cancer patients and bought jewelry." The projector flashed to the receipt $12,000 diamond earrings, purchased with funds from the Pediatric Cancer Assistance account. Father moved toward me, his contractor's hands clenched into fists. "You think you're so righteous you're destroying your family, your own blood. You destroyed this family the day you decided other people's suffering was your opportunity." "Everything we did was legal," he said, stopping inches from me. I could smell bourbon and rage. "Administrative costs, operating expenses, every charity has them." 70%, I asked. "You told me yourself, 3 nights ago. 70% never reached the people who needed it." Behind him, the recording played his own voice, slurred with bourbon, admitting everything. The room erupted, voices raised in anger, in disbelief, in recognition as pieces fell into place. Why their donations never seemed to help enough. Why families still struggled despite the fund's success. Why the Ellisons lived so well on a contractor's and a charity manager's salary. Through the chaos, I kept my eyes on the door. 9:21 p.m. Any moment now. Cut the power. Father roared, shoving past guests toward the circuit breaker. Someone cut the goddamn power. It's running on battery, I said calmly. Fully charged, 3 hours of runtime. The projector kept its relentless reveal. Now it showed the forged will, Grandma's real signature next to the fabricated one, obviously different even to untrained eyes. Then the death certificate of the notary who'd supposedly witnessed it. Then his accident report. Single car, no witnesses. 3 months after the will was filed. "This is insane!" Mother shrieked, her composed facade completely shattered. "These are lies, manipulations. She's trying to destroy us because we didn't coddle her, because we expected her to be normal instead of this investigation specialist I supplied. Someone who recognizes fraud when she sees it." Pastor Morrison stepped forward, his face gray. "Lorraine, I need to know. The church fundraiser last spring we raised $30,000 for the homeless shelter. Did that money?" Mother's silence was answer enough. "My God," he whispered. "We told those people help was coming." Behind him, Mrs. Blackwood was crying her husband's cancer treatment fund had collected $40,000. They'd received $4,000 and been told that was all that was raised. "You have no proof," Father bellowed, but even he knew it was over. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable, playing out in devastating detail on the wall where his philanthropy slideshow should have been. I reached into my purse and pulled out a manila envelope, the certified copy of Grandma's real will, the one filed with her attorney in Chicago 6 months before her death. "The original is with the district attorney. Grandma never changed her will." "You did." Sloan laughed high, hysterical. "You're destroying us over a house over money. Over Dorothy Parks. Over the Hendricks family. Over every person who believed their donation would help someone and instead bought your spa treatments." I pulled out my phone, showing her the screen. "By the way, your credit card records are particularly interesting. Did you know coding personal purchases as charitable expenses is tax fraud?" She went white. "I didn't. Mom said it was administrative costs." Mother finished weakly. "It's all administrative costs." The room had reorganized itself, my family on one side, everyone else pressing away from them like they were contagious. The donation checks on the floor looked like crime scene evidence. "Mara," Judge Patterson said carefully, "what you're suggesting if this is real?" "It's real?" I said. "Every document authenticated, every recording legally obtained in spaces where I was lawfully present, every financial record subpoenaed through proper channels." The doorbell rang a third time, then knocking loud, authoritative. "Don't open that door." Father commanded, but his voice had lost its power. He was just a man now, not the pillar of the community, just a thief in a expensive suit. I looked at Sloan. "You should probably answer that." "Why me?" "Because you're about to lose the house anyway. Might as well open the door one last time as the resident." She didn't move. Nobody did. The knocking grew louder. "Lake Haven County District Attorney's Office. We have warrants." The room erupted. Guests scrambled for coats, for exits, for distance from the contamination of association. Mother grabbed the donation box, clutching it to her chest like it could save her. "Put it down, Lorraine," I said quietly. "It's evidence now." "You vindictive little bitch," she hissed. "We gave you everything." "You gave me a masterclass in deception. I just learned the lesson too well." Father made one last attempt at control. "Nobody leaves. You're all witnesses to this entrapment, this violation of family trust." But the guests were already fleeing, pushing past each other to escape before the authorities entered. Only a few remained: the pastor, the judge, Mrs. Blackwood, and the others who'd lost the most. The door burst open. David Kulik walked in, flanked by federal agents and local police. His tired eyes took in the scene, the projector still running, the scattered checks, my wine-soaked dress, my family huddled together like cornered animals. "Richard Ellison, Lorraine Ellison, Sloan Ellison," he said formally. "We have warrants for your arrest on charges of wire fraud, money laundering, tax evasion, and theft by deception." "This is a mistake," Father said, but his hands were already moving behind his back, trained by years of watching suspects on his construction sites. He knew the position. As the officers read their rights, as handcuffs clicked onto wrists, as Mother's designer heels clicked against the floor in stuttering panic, I stood perfectly still in my ruined dress. The grandfather clock began to chime. 9:30 p.m. Right on schedule. The handcuffs clicked like Christmas bells. Mother's were first silver against her wrists where her charity benefit bracelet used to sit. The federal agents read her rights while she stared at me, mascara running in black rivers down her cheeks. Father didn't look at anyone. His contractor's shoulders finally slumped in defeat. Sloan collapsed into a dining chair, the fight gone out of her. Mascara smearing as reality set in. Red evidence tape crossed the donation box like a festive ribbon. Every check, every pledge card, every lying promise sealed inside. The agents worked methodically, photographing, bagging, cataloging the death of our family's reputation. "Ma'am," one officer said to Mother, "we need you to come with us now." She turned to the remaining guests, the victims who'd stayed to watch justice served. "I was trying to help," she whispered. "Everything I did was to help." Mrs. Blackwood stepped forward. "My husband died thinking nobody cared enough to help with his treatment. We scraped together funeral costs while you bought diamonds." Mother had no answer. The officer guided her toward the door, past the Christmas tree, past the wreaths, past the life she'd built on other people's suffering. Father found his voice as they cuffed him. "You're destroying everything we built," he said to me. "The business, the reputation, the legacy." "Grandma's legacy was kindness," I said. "You turned it into a con game." He started to respond, but the words died as Judge Patterson spoke up. "Richard, I defended you. For years, I defended you. Every complaint that crossed my desk, every concern raised, I dismissed them because I trusted you." "It was just business," Father said weakly. "It was theft," the judge replied, "and I enabled it." They led Father out next. His footsteps, usually so commanding, shuffled against the hardwood. The man who'd built half of Riverton couldn't even build a defense. Sloan was last. As the officer helped her stand, she looked at me with something between hatred and desperation. "What am I supposed to do now? Where am I supposed to go?" "Maybe someone will start a charity fund for you," I said, though I'd suggest they audit it carefully. She didn't reply. Couldn't. The officer guided her past the piano where we'd played duets as children, past the photos of family vacations funded by stolen money, past any chance of redemption. David Kulik stayed behind as the house emptied. "The files you provided, it's enough for federal charges. They're looking at serious time." "How much?" "With the amounts involved, the number of victims 10 to 15 years, maybe more if we connect the notary's death to them." I nodded, pulling tissues from my purse to dab at the wine stain. "The house will be seized as asset forfeiture. The cars, the accounts, all of it. The real will you found means the estate returns to probate. You and your siblings will have to sort that out after the criminal proceedings." "There won't be anything left to sort," I said. "The victims should be compensated first." He studied me. "You know you won't see a penny from any of this." "I know. And you're okay with that?" I thought about Dorothy Parks struggling to breathe, about the Hendricks children in sleeping bags, about every person who'd believed in the goodness of charity only to be betrayed. "Heroes don't need inheritance," I said. echoing Father's words back to the empty room. They need truth, and today, truth has all the proper documentation. Kulik smiled grimly. The victims will be notified. There's a process for recovering stolen funds, though it takes time. They've waited this long. He left me alone in the house that used to be Grandma's, that should have stayed Grandma's, that would soon belong to the federal government. I walked through the rooms, past the catered food nobody would eat, past the presents nobody would open, past the projection still running on the wall, now showing a loop of evidence that had destroyed everything. I stopped it at 9:58 p.m. The white wall returned to blank, like fresh snow, like innocence, like the possibility of starting over. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number that I recognized as Dorothy Park's daughter. Saw the news alert. Thank you. Then another, from Tom Morrison. You did the right thing. And another. And another. Victims finding out that justice, while delayed, had finally been delivered. I picked up my coat, the practical one Mother always hated, and walked to the door. Behind me, the Christmas lights blinked in rhythm with the police cars outside. The tree stood magnificent and empty, like a monument to greed dressed in tinsel. My shoes crunched on fresh snow as I walked to my rental car. Neighbors peered through curtains, witnessing the fall of the Ellison Empire. Tomorrow, it would be front-page news. Tonight, it was just me in a wine-stained dress, driving away from a family that never really existed. The radio played Christmas carols as I drove toward the highway, toward Chicago, toward a life built on truth instead of performance. In the rearview mirror, the house grew smaller, the lights dimmer, until it was just another crime scene in a small town full of secrets. My phone rang Kulik again. Forgot to tell you, he said. Merry Christmas, Mara. I almost laughed. Yeah, Merry Christmas. The clock on the dashboard turned to 10:30 p.m. December 24th was over. The evidence was filed, the arrests made, the truth revealed. I'd given my family the only gift that mattered: accountability wrapped in consequence, tied with federal charges. Some gifts can't be returned. The highway stretched ahead, dark and certain. I drove toward it, leaving Riverton in the rearview mirror where it belonged. The wine stain on my dress had dried to the color of justice, dark, permanent, and absolutely worth it. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Drop a comment and let's connect. If this tale of family betrayal and justice resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts below. What would you have done in Mara's position? Your perspectives make these stories come alive. Until next time, keep seeking truth in your own story.